Okay, that's $100. Color asur lava zebazem with their own color asur lava bakol with their own lava zebazem. The Mishnah before had a couple of categories who are allowed to intermarry. First, it says Kam Vim Yisraelim, of course. Then, if the Cholol comes in already, so then the coin's out. But the Levi Yisrael, Cholol, Ger, Haruri, those are allowed to intermarry. Then I spoke about Geri Haruri and Mamzerim. There are four kinds of Mamzerim. The Mamzer Vadai, and then you also have a Nosin, who also has a Mamzer, and then Shulki Vasufi, Safak Mamzerim. So the Mishnah before said a big Chiddush. When we don't think tomorrow, we didn't pay attention. The Gemara didn't note it, point this out, that we had a machlokes a couple of days ago, Samach Dalit, machlokes between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda for Gerrit allowed to marry Mamzeres. Everybody knows that the Charles is Mamzeres, but machlokes is mutter to marry. And we didn't realize when we looked at the Mishnah, it's a Feish Mishnah that it says that Ger B'Charuri and Mamzeri are allowed to mutter. So that was just a Mishnah like of Yossi, that Ger is allowed to marry Mamzeres. And Rabbi Yehuda and the Bryce happens to argue. We didn't have such a Mishnah, but then the Bryce says Rabbi Yehuda argues. Okay, so far that's the background, chazering over what we did. Now it says that anybody, Kol Asur Lava B'Kol, this is going to be today's subject, what these words mean. Kol Asurim Lava B'Kol, Muton Lava Zebazeh. What's called Asur Lava B'Kol? So we know the psukim where it says La Yovo Yamoni B'Kal Hashem, La Yovo Mamzer B'Kal Hashem. Adomi and Mitzri, it says they shouldn't come only B'Dosh Lishi, Avolam B'Kal Hashem. So the words say that anybody that's not allowed to come into Am Yisrael is allowed to intermarry with each other, which would mean Mamoni, Moavi. What else we have? Mamzerim, that they're allowed to intermarry, which the Mishnah said before. The Mishnah said even more, that Gerim also allowed to marry. This Mishnah doesn't say that. Again, simple words. Anybody that's not allowed to come into the call, which would mean Amoni, Mayovi, and a Mamzer, which would mean Mamzerim, also Amoni, Mayovi, Muton Lava Zebazeh. Let's have a Chiddush than the Mishnah before. Let's take it Mamzerim and our Mishnah. If you're going back on the Mishnahs before, so it would be Mamzerim and Safak Mamzerim. You have Mamzer and Nosin, and you have a Shtuki and a Sufi. And the Mishnah said that they're allowed to intermarry. And this Mishnah says again they're allowed to intermarry. Rav Yehuda Oiser. And these words are going to be also very this is going to be bothering the Gemara. What is Rav Yehuda coming to answer? The Gemara is going to have a couple of pshatim. All of them are not going to be simple. Maybe together we can try to figure out some simple pshat that they do bring down from maybe the Yerushalmi. So you have a Kamutar Lovos Zebazeh, Rav Yehuda Oiser, and then there's a third opinion. Adon Bavadon Mutter. It's only mutter if a mamzer intend to marry if it's a vadai, which means a vadai mamzer and a vadai mamzer. Or Rashi says also the nosin, which is like a mamzer drabana, so they're allowed to intermarry. But any kind of a suffix you're not allowed to, because maybe the suffix is really not a mamzer. Vadon is faken, or faken bavadon, or faken is faken also. A mamzer vadai with a mamzer vadai is mutter, but a mamzer vadai with a mamzer suffix is also, because maybe the suffix is really not a mamzer, and it comes out that a mamzer is marrying a suffix mamzer. Also a suffix with a suffix, a shtuki and a shtuki, or a shtuki and a sufi. Because even though, so therefore this also, Rabbi Elazar is only matter a vadei mamzer with a vadei mamzer. Elohen a speka shtuki a sufi. The kusi, before we spoke about shtuki and a sufi, here down as on a kusi also, which has to be explained. A kusi was a question if they're good gerim or not, but here comes in that they're suffix from zerim. So we have to wait for the Gemara to see what the kusi is all about. So the Gemara is going to say many pshatim, and they're all not going to be simple. So we'd like to just present a simple pshat that Machavus found in the Rishonim. That the Oyser could be Mamash Shmidas variable. That even a Vadai Mamzer with a Vadai Mamzer is also not allowed to marry. That would be the simple pshat. Tanakama says Muton Lova Zebazeh. The Mamzerim, even Safak Mamzerim, are allowed to intermarry. Rabbi Yehuda says everything's also. Even a Mamzer Vadai with a Mamzer Vadai. And Rabbi Elazar says that a mamzer vadai with a mamzer vadai is mutter, but the speakers are also, because maybe one is and one is not. It will come out a huge chiddush that a mamzer is not allowed to marry mamzeres. And over there, the Rishonim says something about we don't want the mamzerim to continue if they're going to have a child, even though it's mutter from it's mutter from mamzer to marry mamzeres, but it's going to bring in more mamzerim in Tam Yisrael. So maybe that might be also with Rabbanan that a mamzer shouldn't marry mamzeres. And who should he marry? He shouldn't marry. It comes out that maybe we want to stop the mamzerim, and maybe the mamzer shouldn't marry. It could be that's Pshat of Yehuda. The Gemara is not going to mention such a thing. The Gemara doesn't entertain such a possibility even. I just want it to be the Mishnah in some kind of a simple Pshat, just to read the words, because the Gemara's Pshat is going to be very difficult to read the words. So that's in a footnote for the Mishnah's class. And now we come into Gemara and we continue. My kol asur lava b'kol. What do the words mean? Kol asur lava b'kol. What is it referring to? Ilema mamzerin nesini shtuke basupi, which was what the Mishnah mentioned before, the categories of people that are not allowed to marry. The mamzer leva b'kal Hashem knows, and it's also the same thing as a mamzer. Shtuke asupi is a suffix mamzer. So the Gemara is the kash that it says it already before. Hatan le'reisha mamzerin nesini shtuke asupi mutam lava zebazeh. It says word for word. It says that's mutter. Over there, it happened to be that it said a little bit more. It said even gave b'charuri, but the Gemara doesn't point that out. But at least these are at least included in what I said before. It wouldn't be any chiddush. It said even a bigger chiddush before. That even gave a charuri is also with the mamzerim, like Rabbi Yossi. But as far as this Mishnah, everything it says here, it says before already. So that's a kasha. The Mishnah wouldn't have repeated it for nothing. Even though the Pashut Pshat would be that it's repeating it in order to say that the Yehuda argues or Belaz argues, but the Gemara says it wouldn't have repeated it for nothing. That's kasha number one. Why does our Mishnah say more? Bigger chiddush than the Mishnah said before. Kasha number two. The Su, second of all, it says Abu Doisa. What does it mean Abu Doisa? The Gemara doesn't even entertain that he answers a Vadai with a Vadai. Even though the Yerushalmi says so, the Vadai doesn't even entertain such a possibility that a Mamzer shouldn't be able to marry Mamzeres. Of course they're allowed to. So that's not even on the, what do you call it? Not even in the ballpark. So what does he mean to say? Ilaim Abadan B'Sveikan is coming to say that a Mamzer Vadai should not marry a Suffolk Mamzer, and that could make sense to us because Suffolk Mamzer, after all, maybe is kosher, so you shouldn't marry a Vadai Mamzer. But the problem is Rabbi Lezer, that's Rabbi Lezer Shita, and in our Mishnah we have three opinions: Tanakama, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lezer. So it can't be that Rabbi Yehuda is saying the same thing as Rabbi Lezer. Tani Sefer Rabbi Lezer Omer Vadan Vadan Mutter Vadan B'Sveikan and Aser Machal Rabbi Yehuda Lo Sriolei. If Rabbi Lezer is the one who says that a suffix with a Vadai is Aser, so that's not Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. It must be saying something else. And it's very, very bolay that the Gemara doesn't even mention that, doesn't even talk about it. Maybe he's coming to say that even a Vadai and a Vadai. No, nothing to talk about. There's no tzad. The Bavti didn't even have a tzad that he's going to answer a Vadai with a Vadai. So that's the Gemara's problem. What is Rabbi Yehuda coming to say? Now that the Gemara does entertain a possibility that he's arguing on the Mishnah before. The Mishnah before said that Geri v'charure mamzer and asini is shuk yasuk muter and lovazeh, and that was Rabbi Yossi talking that a ger is allowed to marry a mamzeres, and Rabbi Yehuda argues that wouldn't be bad because we know in the Brisa Rabbi Yehuda argues and he holds that a ger is not allowed to marry mamzeres. So maybe that's Rabbi Yehuda over here that he's coming to argue on the din of the ger and the mamzeres. That's what he's coming to say is asa. But it doesn't say that over here. Midi ger b'mamzeres katani. If Rabbi Yehuda would have been quoted on the Mishnah before, it would be very nice. That the Mishnah says ger v'charuri mamzeri is mutter, and Rabbi Yehuda also very beautiful, mamish same as the Brisa. But it doesn't say on the Mishnah before. It says it in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah doesn't say ger v'charuri. Our Mishnah says asun lava b'kol. Asun lava b'kol is not a ger. A ger is not asun lava b'kol. A ger could marry Jewish, and ger could even marry Canis we had. So that's not on our Mishnah. Our Mishnah talks about the four. The mamzeri, the sini, shtuki, and sufi. So Rabbi Yehuda can't be arguing about the ger to marry the mamzeres because it doesn't talk about it over here. So the Gemara is stuck. That's the Gemara's kasha. What's shot in Rabbi Yehuda coming to us over here? Why does the Mishnah repeat itself? Tanakama repeats himself, and why does Rabbi Yehuda argue? What's he arguing on? He's not going to be the same opinion as Rabbi Lezer, and he's not arguing ger mamzeres because it doesn't say it over here. So that's the kasha. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. I'm at base, and each shot. That's the personal opinion, the personal that it doesn't fit into the words well. Every shot is going to be very, very different. So the first shot. We had it on a word over there. We don't. The Mishnah says in the Mishnah, so he's saying but the idea of the Gemara, just to try to do it simplify, is that we're trying to fit in the pshat that it says a ger over here. That's what we're looking for. If it would say the machlokes of Yossi and Yehuda would be the ger and the mamzeres, Yehuda holds the ger is allowed to marry mamzeres, and Yehuda says not, it would be very nice. That would be a nice pshat. But it doesn't say it. The Mishnah doesn't say over here ger. It just says about the mamzer and the suffix. So the Gemara is going to try to do some surgery on the Mishnah that it should say a ger is mutter and a mamzeres. What?
Should imply it.
Should imply it.
Doesn't say.
Okay, that's the question. What's it gonna be? What is it gonna should imply somehow? Okay. So the word asur lava b'kol, the Gemara says doesn't mean asur lava b'kol. It means kol asur lava b'kol kahuna. And that would mean a gioris, because a Kohen is not allowed to marry a gioris. Would that make sense? That's good. If the Mishnah doesn't mean asur lava b'kol means mamzer, suffix mamzer, that's called asur lava b'kol. But if you stick in the word kahuna, so who's asur to marry kal kahuna? A gioris. Now it happens to be that other ones also. Who's not allowed? Who's a Kohen not allowed to marry? Like it says, how does it go over there? How does the pasuk read? So those are the ones that a Kohen is not allowed to marry. It happens to be is also not allowed to marry Gioris, which is not a Perishah pasuk. The pasuk talks about three Beferish that a Kohen is not allowed to marry. Thank you. Zayna halal and a grusha. That's the says Perish that a Kohen is not allowed to marry. It also happens to be he's not allowed to marry Gioris, and that's not so simple. Why he's not allowed to marry Gioris? And there's going to be a sugya later on. But the Gemara just hops on first that the asur and lava b'kol kahuna is the Gioris, as if that's the classical one that Kohen is not allowed to marry. We'll get back later to the halal zona grusha. And Kohen is not allowed to marry, and they're surely not allowed to marry mamzerim. But what the Gemara is trying to do is to say that these words, this klal, is going to mean a gioris, and it says kol asur lava b'kol kahuna is allowed to marry the mamzerim, which is Rabbi Yossi, that ger is allowed to marry a mamzeris, and at that David is going to answer, which we know we'll be happy with that. David answers that ger to marry a ger to marry a mamzeris, and then the mission will be very nice. That's the Gemara's trick over here, to add on the word kahuna, and that makes it mean a gioris. And the Mishnah Tanakama says that a ger could marry a, what am I saying? That a ger could marry a mamzeris, and everybody's going to say a ger cannot marry a mamzeris. There's a little bit of the next couple of lines. If it's okay if we skip it for a meanwhile, just to go through the Gemara, I'll come back to these lines. I think it'll make it easier. My new Gioris. Okay, well, that's smart. Yeah. This now, what I'm doing now, what is you're not allowed to do this into the film, but if it's okay, I'm skipping a lot. Okay. But we have to come back. But we have to come back. Okay. So, but I think it makes it simple in order to just understand, because it's not much a side point, and it's not the issue. So what do? We put in the word kuna in order to make it mean a gioris, my neo gioris, and it says that a gioris is a lot of marriage. A gioris and a mamzer is mutter, or a ger and a mamzeris is mutter. And then if you hold that it's asur, we answered all the kashas. It isn't the same as the Mishnah before. It is the same as the Mishnah before. Tais says the kasha. That is the same as the Mishnah before. But Tais says the main kasha was the second kasha that what's Avidah arguing about. So he's going to argue that it says that ger is mutter ben mamzeris, and Avidah asurs. There was a problem on this, that he's saying that the klal of kol asur lava b'kol kuna means a gioris, but it means other things also. Is that a good rule? The kol asur lava b'kol kuna mutar lava zebazeh, that anybody that the Kohen is not allowed to marry is allowed to marry a mamzer. Almana is for a Kohen gadol, but Rusha, Halala, Zona, the asur lava b'kol kuna, asur lava zebazeh. That there are other people that the klal doesn't make sense for, because the Kohen is not allowed to marry all these women, a grusha halala zona, and they are not allowed to marry a mamzer. You could talk about a gioris. A gioris could marry a mamzer. That was what we wanted to say that the Mishnah means. That's like a Yossi. But a grusha halala zona is surely not allowed to marry a mamzer. That's not a question. So the klal is not true. That's kasha number one. Visu, and also mutter, asa, according to your cloud, if it's asa to marry a Kohen, it's mutter to marry a mamzer. And the cloud's going to be the opposite also. If it's mutter to marry a Kohen, it's asa to marry a mamzer. What can we imply? Can we derive that if it's mutter, here it says asa lavava kohol is mutter to marry a mamzer. Mutan lavazevazeh. So the diak would be, maybe you can argue on the diak, but the Gemara, but the Mishnah, the Gemara is saying that the diak should be the opposite also. That if it's mutter to marry a kohen, then it would be asa to marry a mamzer. Mutter asa. But if it's mutter to marry a kohen, so it's asa to marry a mamzer. That's not true. I can show you somebody who's mutter to marry kahuna, and it's asa to marry a mamzer. And it's mutter to marry a mamzer. However, ger shemutter b'kehenes, mutter b'mamzeres. Yesterday we had this Gemara, or I forgot 2 days ago already, that a ger has both milas. That he's allowed to marry kohenes, and he's allowed to marry mamzeres. That was what we had over there in Machuza. That some Reb Zera Dashin that a ger is allowed to marry mamzeres. They got angry at him, so Rabbi came and said a ger is allowed to marry kohenes, also allowed to marry mamzeres. So the klau, here's a case over here that someone's allowed to marry a kohen, not a kohen, kohenes, and also is allowed to marry a mamzeres. That it's not that whoever's mutter to marry into kahuna is aser ben mamzer. There's somebody that's allowed to marry to kahuna, a ger is allowed to marry into the kahuna, and also allowed to marry into the mamzerim. So the Gemara rejects the first pshat. Again, we had a pshat that we put in the word kahuna, kahuna, and we thought that we're going to gain that means a gioris, and the Mishnah will be saying that a ger is allowed to marry a gioris is allowed to marry a mamzer, or vice versa. And that would be, the one would have been happy with that. The Rebbe argues and says that a ger might not marry a mamzeres. And the kasha is two kashas. Both directions are not true. That there are people that a kohen is not allowed to marry, and they're not allowed to marry a mamzer. And there are people that are allowed to marry a kohen and are allowed to marry a mamzer, kohenes and mamzer. So this pshat is rejected. Ella Amar Rav Nosson Bar Hoshaya. Try number 2. Hachikama. So we'll try to highlight this also. Kol shekohen. What do I do here? Yeah. Kol shekohen asa lisa esbito. So we're going down one generation. We think the more thinks we're going down one generation, not who the Kohen's allowed to marry, but the one that the Kohen's allowed to marry his daughter. That'll be Kol she'asa love of a Kol means whoever the Kohen's not allowed to marry his daughter is allowed to marry a mamzer. Whoever, is that good? That whoever the Kohen is not allowed to marry his daughter is allowed to marry a mamzer. And again, the Gemara is trying to keep to the ger. We really want to say that the Mishnah is saying that the ger is allowed to marry a mamzeres, which is Rabbi Yossi, and Abid is going to answer and say ger is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. That's why we'd like to fit this pshat into the Mishnah, where we have the pshat, we want to fit it into the words. So first, the Gemara tried to say that it means a kal kahuna, but that didn't fit. Because that was too broad. It also included a halala, a zona, a grusha. That didn't fit. But now we'll try to edit it in a way that it will mean what we're trying to say, that it should mean a gioris only. If you're not allowed to marry his daughter, are you allowed to marry? Can a Kohen marry the daughter of a grusha? Yes. The Kohen can't marry the grusha, but he could marry the daughter of the grusha. Could he marry the daughter of a zona? Yeah. The zona is not allowed to marry. He could marry the daughter of the zona. We'll leave out the halala for a second.
No.
What?
We can't.
Right, so that's why I'm skipping
Keep skipping.
But the Gemara thought that it was able to pull a fast one over here and get the cloud we're looking for. We're looking for that the Gioris is allowed, the Ger is allowed to marry Mamzeres. That's what we're trying to fit into the Mishnah. So what do we do? So we had a problem. We said the Kohen's not allowed to marry. We got a Gioris, but we got too many over there. But if you go to the next generation, somewhere we got rid of some of them. That the Grusha and the Zona, the Kohen is allowed to marry the daughter. So that's not included in the klal over here. We got rid of the Grusha and the Zona. And what's going to be left? The daughter of the Ger. That Gemara holds that the Kohen is not allowed to marry the daughter of a Ger. And that's not so simple. The Gemara is going with one sheet only. The Kohen is not allowed to marry a Gioris. Is he allowed to marry the daughter of a Gioris? So it's not so simple. I think we hold that as mutter, but here the Gemara is going with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Or my new ger shenasa gioris. That's a question of both parents. If both parents are gerim, the ger, they marry the gioris, and they have a daughter. Is the Kohen allowed to marry that daughter? So Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says no. So we're supposed to know all these already. We're supposed to know all the facts, which is going to be later on in the Masechta. But the Gemara thinks that we're going according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says that the daughter of a ger and a gioris, the Kohen is not allowed to marry. So we narrowed it down. Who is a Kohen not allowed to marry? His daughter, the ger. The ger married a gioris. That the Kohen is not allowed to marry that daughter. And with Don Lovazebazeh, would fit into the cloud that is allowed to marry the mamzerim. That back to the cloud we're trying to look for. That a ger is allowed to marry mamzeris, or mom's allowed to marry gioris. That's all the same. So the Gemara thinks that this would have been a good pshat. What do? We're trying to aiming for the same thing. The first shot didn't work because it included too much, and this shot excluded everything. Excluded the grusha, excluded the zona. But now the Gemara is going to ask Chaim Dov's question that he didn't get rid of the halala because the Kohen is not allowed to marry the daughter of a halala because she's a halala also. Uklalahu, is that a rule? The Chol Shekohen Nasa Lisa as Bito Mutam Lavazeh Bazeh, that anybody that the Kohen is not allowed to marry his daughter is allowed to marry a mamzer? Harei Cholo Shenasa Bas Yisrael. The Kohen Nasa Lisa Bito Vasur Nami Lavo Zeh Bazeh. So the Gemara is taking it a step at a time. It means the daughter of a cholo means if you're not allowed to marry his daughter, that means that the father is a cholo. Are you allowed to marry his daughter? The Gemara assumes that the daughter of a cholo is also going to be a halala. And that's not, these halachas are not so simple. These are going to be later on questions. But there is a mandama that says that bas cholo zochar, I think that's how we pass even, is a halala. And I think that's how we pass also. That if the father is a halal, the daughter is a halala. So according to your klal, that whoever the Kohen is not allowed to marry his daughter is allowed to marry mamzeres. That would include also the halal, because the Kohen is not allowed to marry the daughter of a halal. Even if the halal married a bas Yisrael, the halal to marry a bas Yisrael is a kosher marriage. They're allowed to get married, but the kid is going to be a halal, and the Kohen is also to marry. And is it mutter to marry a mamzer? No, surely. A halal cannot marry a mamzer. There's no one's gonna say that it's mutter. The only thing that was mutter maybe was a ger. That's machlokes of Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda. If a ger is allowed to marry a mamzeres, but nobody holds about a halal being mutter. So this klal is not true because you're saying that whoever the Kohen is allowed to marry his daughter is not allowed to marry his daughter is allowed to marry mamzer. That's not true because a Kohen is not allowed to marry the daughter of a halal because she's a halala. That the Gemara is able to get out of because lo kasha. The story Ben Yehuda, because we had many times that he's the one who said the fancy lotion over there that a bas Yisrael is a mikvatara lehalalim. That if a halal marries a bas Yisrael, he holds that the daughter is not going to be a halal. So believe that the klal of saying that whoever you're not allowed to marry the daughter will be the case of the ger and the gioris. But if the halal would have married a bas Yisrael, the child will not be a halala. And at that, the Mishnah didn't say that she's allowed to marry into a mamza. But the Gemara said, okay, you took one step only, but what if the Chalal did marry Chalala? Agab, similar to the Ger and the Gioris. When you say Ger and Gioris, you mean both of them. So the Chalal and the Chalala, you're not going to just talk about the Chalal married to Bas Yisrael. Havi Chalal Shenasa Chalala, V'kon Nasa Lisa Bito, V'asanami Lavazeh Bazeh, means the Gemara Mamish made it, tried to fool us, so to speak. The Gemara is taking it step by step. That the Gemara said that the daughter of a Chalal is mutter to a Kohen according to this story. Very nice. If the halal married the bas Yisrael, but if the halal married a halala, then surely the kid is a halal. Everybody knows that the child is a halala if both parents are a halal. And according to your klal, if the Kohen is not allowed to marry this daughter, so then it would be mutter to marry and to mamzerus, and that's not true. So this trend is also off. And again, the kasha similar the diak, the su. Second of all, mutter aser. You want to according to the diak, if it will be mutter to marry the daughter of this person, so then it'll be also to marry mamzerus. That's not true. Well, ger shenasa bas Yisrael, and the child is mutter to marry a Kohen. The Kohen mutter lisa bito. It's only both of the parents. A ger that married a gioris, then the child is also according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. But if the ger married a bas Yisrael, so then the daughter is mutter and mutter on love bazeh, because she's a Gioris, because who's mutter? This ger, the father, the ger is mutter to marry a mamzeres. So again, the second shot didn't work. The klal was either too broad, or the opposite, or the implication was not true. So we try number 3. Here goes the third shot. Also, it's not going to be easy in the words. Hacha mamzer me'achoso was hacha. Here the Mishnah means mamzer ela amar of Nachman amar Rabba Brahua. The third teretz, the third possibility. Hacha mamzer me'achoso mamzer me'eshesis ish ikebenayu. So it's not saying a pshat in the words. The Mishnah, the Gemara doesn't say how to listen to the words that Rashi and Taisus will talk about, but the machlokis of the Mishnah of kol asur and lova b'kol mutar and zebazeh aviv oser is arguing what constitutes a mamzer. What's a mamzer? So it's very hard in the words, but we know there is such a machlokis. The Gemara is going to quote it right away. What makes a mamzer? Some hold only chayve Mrs. Bezdin, a union of chayve Mrs. Bezdin, that the child born is going to be a mamzer. We hold even chayve krisis, not only chayve Mrs. Bezdin, even chayve krisis also makes a mamzer. Yeah, those that hold even chayve lavin, 3 opinions, either lav or kares or Mrs. Bezdin. But anyway, the Gemara wants to see in our Mishnah that they're arguing what makes a mamzer. So the words say kol asur and lova b'kol, which the Gemara is going to say now, it doesn't mean asur and lova b'kol like we thought till now. Asur and lova b'kol means a mamzer leyova b'kal Hashem and amoni ma'obi leva b'kal Hashem. The words kal Hashem in the Mishnah don't refer to the words kal Hashem that the Torah uses. It's not using biblical language. It's using a new terminology. And asur and lova b'kol means that Kiddushin is not tokes, which is very, very big chiddush, very hard to say such a pshat. That when the Mishnah says kol asur and lova b'kol means anybody that Kiddushin doesn't take effect. If it's such a kind of a marriage that if you made Ariyat Mukadeshly, nothing happened, which means Chayv increases, so then, as Mutar Lov Zeh, because they're also considered Mamzerim. The Gemara is putting into the Mishnah that it says that anybody that has a union of Chayv increases, the child is a Mamzer, and therefore they're allowed to marry any other Mamzer. All Mamzerim are the same. All Mamzerim are created equal, no difference if they're a union, a product of Chayv increases or Chayv Mrs. Bezdin. And Rabbi Yehuda argues and says Aser. Why say Aser? Because he says, no, that's not a Mamzer. That's not a mamzer if it's chayve krisus. It's only a mamzer if it's chayve Mrs. Bezdin. So if there's a child born of chayve krisus, he's not a mamzer. So you can marry a mamzer who's born of chayve Mrs. Bezdin. So the words are very difficult, but that's why the Gemara wants to try to fit it in. That's what the Mishnah is talking about.
Does it give a different terminology for such a person?
Usually it talks that it's not Tofas Kiddushin. And here it says that it's Ashon Lova B'Kol, not the regular way to talk. And Rabbi Yehuda is going to answer the words also not so good. Rabbi Yehuda answers, what does he answer? Kol Hashem Lova B'Kol. He also agrees Kol Hashem Lova B'Kol, but he's going to say the ones who are mamzerim are only the ones that not Tfisas Kiddushin. He also, everybody agrees that a mamzer is allowed to marry a mamzer. The question is only what's a mamzer. So the words are pretty difficult. But that's what the Gemara entertains the possibility. Tanakama Sabra Afilu Mamzer Me'achosa Nami Ave Mamzer. Tanakama says even the union of Chayvi Krisus Achoso is the standard classical example of Chayvi Krisus. To have relations with a sister is Chayvi Krisus, and if someone did, then the child born is a mamzer. So Tanakama says that's also a mamzer, and he'd be allowed to marry a mamzeres who's the result of a union of Chayvi Mrs. Bezdin. Rabbi Yehuda Sabar, Meisha Sish Avi Mamzer, Mechosa Lo Avi Mamzer, only a union of a Chayvi Mrs. Bezdin. For example, Eisha Sish. There could be other examples also. The Gemara just takes 2 examples. That Tanakama Rabbi Yehuda holds that only a result of Eisha of a Chayvi Mrs. Bezdin makes a mamzer, and therefore wouldn't be able to marry the child of a Chayvi Krisus. Why does the Gemara knock off this pshat? My Kamash Malan. There's no Chiddush. You notice Hashem Machlokes already. Tanina, we had another mission that says that, and it says it even more openly. Ezel Mamzer. What is the Mamzer? 3 opinions. Kol Shu Below Yovo, Divra Bakiva. Bakiva says a result of a Chayve Lavin, even the Chayve Lavin. What's an example of a Chayve Lavin? That's Chayve. It's Kuna.
Zarina. No.
Right.
Oh, very good. So Dhaka.
Okay, good. So even there was even a union of a Chayve Lavin also makes a mamzer. That's Rabbi Kiva. We had that sugi before that he says that even Chayve Lavin is not Tofes Kiddushin. Shiminatim Niomer Kol Shechayav Allah Karis B'dei Shemayim Balacha Kedvara. That was second opinion. We passed like this that the result of Chayv increases, and Rabbi Shua Kol Shechayav Allah Mises Bezdin. Only the result of a death penalty makes a mamzer. So the Gemara rejects this shot because we know it already, and there wouldn't be any chiddush in the way that the Gemara has no problem with reading into the Mishnah because we know it already. So we're looking. We still didn't find a good shot to explain our Mishnah, and now comes the final shot. What? That's good. El Amarova. Ger Amoni Umoavi Ikebenayu. The words alone means there's a machlokus happening. That we'll see in a second that maybe it's not going to be so. But the machlokus is about a ger Amoni Moavi. A ger Amoni Moavi is surely also love of Bakol, right? And that's what it says. That Amon, that's what it says it on. That Amoni, Layava Amoni B'Kal Hashem. V'achi Kamar. Kol Hashem love of Bakol, Umayni Ger Amoni Moavi, V'Ton love Zebazeh. That all those that are not allowed to come into the Kol, which is Amoni Moavi, they're allowed to marry mamzerim. The Mishnah is talking about mamzerim, and it says now that ger amoni ma'ovi is allowed to marry a mamzer. Now the truth is that we have to take away that amoni ma'ovi. Just talk about a ger. Amoni ma'ovi that's talking about he's allowed to marry. Obviously, he's a ger. If it wouldn't be a ger, then he's a goy. So we're talking about a ger amoni. Rabbi Yossi holds that any ger, not only ger amoni, but any ger is allowed to marry a mamzeres. So the Mishnah wouldn't be him talking because he holds not only a ger, not a ger amoni, even any ger is allowed to marry. And Rabbi Yehuda says over here, Rabbi Yehuda Osa, which would sound, it would sound like Rabbi Yehuda holds that even this is also Osa. He holds that ger is not allowed to marry mamzeres, and here in our Mishnah we're saying that it means a ger monim ovi, and that it also says that he's not allowed to marry a mamzeres. But the Gemara takes it even further that it cannot be.
So now we're going back to the ger shot.
To the ger.
The third shot was not with the ger shot.
Right.
So Bigadol.
We're
going to have another problem because of Amoni. We're going back to the problem of ger and mamzeres.
But the problem was that it doesn't say in the words. That was Gemara's kasha. It doesn't say ger. So the Gemara puts it into the words because Amoni Mavi is Layava B'Kal Hashem. What was the Gemara's kasha on the bottom? That it said that you can't say coming to argue on the ger and mamzeres because it doesn't say so. That's the Mishnah before. Ger B'Charuri. Here it doesn't say that. But the Gemara now fixes that up because we are talking about Layava B'Kal Hashem. Not every ger, a ger Amoni Mavi. And now we're a little bit stuck because Manashach. Rabbi Yossi holds that every ger is allowed to marry mamzeres, and now you're saying Rabbi Yehuda holds that even a ger moni Rabbi also cannot marry mamzeres. But the Gemara takes it even stronger right away to say that's impossible because Rabbi Yehuda, nobody possibly can hold that a ger moni and Moavi cannot marry mamzeres because it says on the ger it says Layava B'Kal Hashem, so they're surely not called Kal Hashem. Before I had Machlokas, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, if Kal Ger Mikri Kol. Over there's a question how to dash in Psukim. Does it say an extra call to say that Ger are also called Kal Hashem? Or they're individual Jews, but they're not called Kal Hashem. Amoni Moavi, the Gemara is pushed that they're not called Kal Hashem because it says on them, Amoni Moavi Kal Hashem, so they're not called Kal Hashem. Yachimari Rabbi Yehuda Oser. How could they be possibly answer on that? It can't be anybody argues on this. Nobody can hold that a Ger Moni and Moavi is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. And now the Gemara says that there's no really Ike Benayu. I think I'd have to take away Ike Benayu. It's only going to be Ger Moni Moavi. And it's not really Ike Benayu. The Gemara first thought it's Ike Benayu, but now the Gemara is changing it. The Gemara is saying Ger Amoni Moavi is what the Mishnah is referring to. V'achi Kamar. Afal Pi Rabbi Yehuda Osa Ger B'Mamzeres Hani Mili Ger Devoy Lava B'Kol. Aval Ger Amoni Moavi then Vui Lava B'Kol Lo. It's coming to say about Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, the Brisa says that a ger is not allowed to marry mamzeres, and the Mishnah is coming to say that even Rabbi Yehuda holds that a ger amoni ma'avi is allowed to marry a mamzeres because he's surely not called kohol, and that's the final shot of the Gemara, and the Gemara is happy. What happened? The Gemara tried 2 times. They had 4 pshatim altogether. 3 of them are rejected. The 4th one remains. The first 2 pshatim tried somehow to read the Mishnah in a way that it's saying ger could marry a mamzeres, and everybody's going to argue with that. But the pshatim didn't work. He tried to say that it means kal kahuna. He tried to say to marry the daughter of that person to the kohen. Both of those pshatim didn't work. One shot in the middle, the Gemara tried to say something about chayvi krisus, chayvi mises bezdin. Also, the Gemara said that keep it a pshat because you know for someplace else already. And now the Gemara came back at the end to say that there is a machlokis about the ger marrying a mamzeres. Rabbi Yossi holds that it's mutter. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't argue with Reish in the Mishnah. He might have been the pshat back in the end of the third parak that it said over there. One of the categories was that whoever you're allowed to marry, you go with the father. If you're not allowed to marry, they go with the puglim. But okay, and that only fits according to Yehuda. The one pshat the Gemara said it goes according to Yehuda that you're not allowed to marry, and the kid goes with the puglim because he wasn't allowed to marry. But here the Gemara says that the Mishnah Bayas is coming to say that even according to Yehuda, if he's mentioned or not, even according to Yehuda holds that a ger may not marry a mamzeres, but a ger moni ma'ovi may marry a mamzeres because they're surely not called Kal Hashem. And just to say
bad news.
the kid is surely a mamzer. There's no, that's not the subject. The kid, even if you hold that a ger is not a marrying mamzer, the kid's going to be a mamzer. That wasn't the whole subject over here. But as far as is a mutter or not, is a mutter to marry. So Rabbi Yossi holds a ger is allowed, any ger is allowed to marry mamzeres. Rabbi Yehuda holds every ger is not allowed to marry mamzeres, but he also agrees that a ger monim ovi may marry a mamzeres. And that's the end, and the curtain closes. That's the Shana Mishnah. And it's very difficult to read the Mishnah like that. So he just said that. That's what he said in the beginning. That the Rishami reads the Mishnah very simply. That Rabbi Yehuda said that any color sum love will call mutar love as ebazeh. Any mamzerim are allowed to marry each other. Even a mamzer with a suffix mamzer is allowed to marry each other. And Rabbi Yehuda says that mamzerim may not marry each other. And who's he going to marry? Could be nobody. And then they won't have any children. Won't be any continuation of mamzerim. It could be that's Rabbanan probably just to stop mamzerim happening being in Am Yisrael. But that would, as far as the Mishnah goes, it reads very nicely. And then Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, I think, I forgot, he's the one who said that there's a difference between, somebody else? He's the one who says that a vadai could marry a vadai because they're both mamzerim, but a vadai with a suffix or a suffix with a suffix cannot because maybe one of them is kosher. So a kosher person not be marrying a mamzer.
That's halacha? We don't know.
Didn't we say that even a suffix could marry a mamzer because of kahal?
It's only called vadai. So he passed like Tanakam. We don't pass like we pass like Tanakam. That is that the shtuki and a sufi and mamzer they're all allowed to marry each other.
But maybe not. There's a tesset to
We passed like we didn't look into. Yeah, there's a number over here. There's a test over here that maybe pass like a balaza that stuff only a vadai is mutter. We'd have to see it inside. Okay. So that was that part of the Mishnah. If that's good,
Yeah.
It's a little difficult, but if it's okay, we'll continue.
A suffix only marry another suffix.
What?
Suffix only marry another suffix.
A suffix can marry, according to a suffix can not in the first Mishnah, the Tanakam held that a suffix could marry a vadai also, and it's based a suffix can marry. The Mishnah before said, and this Mishnah holds that only a vadai could marry a vadai. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says only a vadai with a vadai, but any speakers already one of them might be kosher. A suffix also is also a problem. Maybe one is kosher, one is not.
That was my question.
Then not all speakers are the same. That you are suffix, you are suffix. So maybe one is kosher, one is not. So Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says also it cannot intermarry. Only a vadai mamzer with a vadai mamzeres. And Tanakama before said that everyone's mutter, even a suffix with suffix, a vadai with a suffix, because and it's based on that a suffix mamzer is midiraisa mutter, and it's only a question of drabanans, so they weren't machmir. Okay. New
So you're going
Raisa.
to the 3-year-old girl
I'm sorry?
that's less than 3 years old.
Oh, I have to go back.
You can do it tomorrow if you're too tired.
Thank you. But I think we did well to skip it because it's going to be a side point. So thank you very much. Much appreciated. So now the first shot said Kal Asur Lava B'Kol Kuna is a Gioris. What do we want to say? We wanted to limit the Mishnah that when it says Kal Asur Lava B'Kol, it doesn't mean Mamzerim and these things. It means Gioris. How do we get the word to mean a Gioris? We said Asur Lava B'Kol Kuna. That's a Gioris. We had problems later on that Grusha Chalab, we had problems, but that's what the Gemara means at this point, that Kal Asur Lava B'Kol Kuna means to exclude a Gioris. But it doesn't say that. Now I take away the parentheses. A Gioris, even less than 3 years old. So there's a machlokus later on. Is a Kohen allowed to marry a Gioris who became a Gioris less than 3 years old? Of course, it means her parents will megayah her. If she became a Gyoros less than 3 years old, is a Kohen allowed to marry her?
Make her daughter of a Gyrus as opposed to the Gyrus herself.
Right, right. So again,
That would make her a daughter of a Gyrus as opposed
no, no,
to
no,
a
no, no,
Gyrus
no, no,
herself?
no. She's a Gyoros. They put her into the mikvah, less than 3 years old. She's a Gyoros. Who the Bezdin did it? Why did the Bezdin do it? Somebody was interested that she should become a Gyoros. She'll have the opportunity to accept or denounce her Gyoros when she becomes Bas Mitzvah. But she was made a Gyoros when she was less than 3 years old. Is a Kohen allowed to marry her? Of course, she's growing up now. Now she's growing. Is a Kohen allowed to marry a Gyoros who became a Gyoros with less than 3 years old?
She's without that, less than 3 years.
Now she's 15 years old. She became a Gyoros. Yeah, the best was Matpal her L'Shem Gyoros, and there is such a thing. And when she became older, she accepted it. She's a happy Jew. And now she's 15, 20. She wants to get married, and a Kohen wants to marry her. May a Kohen marry a Gyoros less than 3 years old? She doesn't machlokes. The Kohen's not allowed to marry a Gyoros, but maybe only when she was an adult she became a Gyoros. But if she was a Gyoros at such a young age, maybe a Kohen's allowed to marry her. So here it says no, that a Kohen is not allowed to marry a Gyoros even if she became a Gyoros less than 3 years old. Or the Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, who says that he may marry. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai holds that a Kohen may marry a Gyoros less than 3 years old when she became a Gyoros. He's not marrying her now. He's marrying her when she's big, but she became a Gyoros when she was less than 3 years old. So we want to fit into the Mishnah. We're going out of it. We're bending backwards to say that our Mishnah says that a Kohen is not allowed to marry a Gyoros even if she became a Gyoros less than 3 years old. A Kohen, this girl who's a Gyoros less than 3 years old is not allowed to marry a Kohen. She's allowed to marry a mamzer. A mamzer would be allowed to marry this Gyoros. A Kitzer, it says that a mamzer is allowed to marry a Gyoros, but it wants to make that he's a Gyoros even if she became a Gyoros less than 3 years old. How does it say that? By saying that whoever Kohen is not allowed to marry. And we have to say that it's going not according to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Kohen is not allowed to marry a Gyoros even if she was less than 3 years old when she became a Gyoros. So the Gemara right away jumps up like, why are you making it so complicated for?
The next page.
The Nukma, the Vashal Hashem of Yom Echad, the Afilu Hashem Ben Yochai. Why did he make it complicated? Why did he say it's talking about the sheet that it holds that a Kohen cannot marry even if she gave a Gyoros less than 3? Why did he say that? They say a Kohen cannot marry Gyoros. She's 3 already, and everyone holds that the Kohen cannot marry Gyoros who became a Gyoros when she was more than 3. Why being so complicated? The Gemara says, "Imkain mitzida tavra," because if that would be the pshat, then mitzida tavra. The word tavra means like shover, and in the shin and tuf, a shin in Hebrew changes to a tuf in Aramaic. That it's broken right there on the side. It means right next to it, you'll see that the pshat doesn't follow, because what is it going to say? That the Kohen is not allowed to marry her. She can marry a mamzeres. Who could the Kohen not marry? Only a Gyoros who became a Gyoros more than 3. Ella time of the Bashal Hashanah v'Yamechad. Only reason why she's allowed to marry a mamzer is only because she was 3 years old. But if she'd be a Gyoros less than 3 years old, according to your cloud, if that would be the cloud that's being said, then only if she would be 3 years old is she allowed to marry mamzeres. But if she would have been 3 years old, if she'd be less than 3 years old, and she would be mutter to marry a Kohen, she'd be also to marry a mamzer. That's not true. Am I reading right? The muteres lavo b'kalkuna, umuteres lavo zevazah. I'm not sure if I got it right. Did I read it right? That if she's less than 3 years old, that according to Rav Shimon, she's allowed to marry a Kohen, and she's also married to marry mamzer. It means as far as that mamzer is allowed to marry Gyoros, there's no difference how old she was. That wouldn't make a difference. Only as far as kuna is there a difference between 3 and not 3. So if you would have said that the klal is according to what we paskin, let's say, whatever, another shita that says that she's only asked to marry Kohen if she's 3 years old, then it only would have said that she's mutter to marry a mamzer if she became a Gyoros after 3 years old. But that's not true. She's mutter to marry a mamzer even if she became a Gyoros less than 3 years old. In order to include the Gyoros less than 3 years old, we have to say it's going not according to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Kohen is not allowed to marry a Gyoros even less than 3 years old, and therefore she's allowed to marry a mamzer even if she's less than 3 years old. That's why we skipped. But I think it's better now because it's a side point and everything flowed. Okay, or maybe it flew. I'm not sure. Okay, that got through the Mishnah. Tana Rabbanan, we're about 4 or 5 lines from the bottom. Tana Rabbanan, Ben Teshuv Shana V'Yom Echad, who is a ger, Ammoni, Moavi, Mitzri, Adomi, Kusi, Nasan, Cholo, Mamzer, all kinds of psulim. So the cloud to say without examples is going to be that anybody that's puzzle, which we a relationship which is usher, the woman becomes puzzle. If there was a bia psula, if there was a unit, someone, the standard case would be that a goy had relations with a Jewish girl, she's now puzzle tikuna. It wasn't her fault, no taina, but a goy had relations with her, so a bia psula apostles her. She can't now marry a coin anymore. But here it says all kinds of psulim, a list of psulim, and ammoni. If someone's a ger, so then there's no problem. It's kosher marriage, and now she's allowed to marry a kohen. If the husband would have died, she can't be a grusha. But these are unions that are usher. Any kind of isser, even if it's not a serious isser, any kind of a lav makes that the woman becomes puzzle. So the example is given over here. Ger Ammoni, or Ger Moavi, or Ger Mitzri, or Ger Adomi. That had the end of the sentence is going to be that they had relations with a Jewish girl, or a kusi.
Oh,
Yes.
with any kind of Jewish girl.
Yeah, that's going to be that's be the end. All these are going to be Shabo al Kohenes Labavia Babas Yisrael. That's the end of the sentence. But any of these people that are considered puzzle, let's try to shrink it a second to see the whole thing. A ger Ammoni, or a ger Moavi, or a ger Mitzri, or a ger Adomi, or a kusi, which is always questionable what he is, but we'll call him a puzzle over here, or a nasin, or a chala, or a mamzer, or any one of these people. Shabo al Kohenes Balalavia Babas Yisrael. Any kind of Jewish girl, no matter what status she is, Bas Kohen or Bas Levi Bas Yisrael, Bisalua, they puzzled her from a Kohen because it's called a Bia Psula. That's a simple rule. A Bia Psula puzzles a woman to marry a Kohen. Usually, a Kohenes Levi Israelis can marry a Kohen. But if she had a Bia Psula, someone had relations with her who was a puzzle man. What's a puzzle man? It doesn't say a goy over here, but a goy surely, and an eved. But also these people, even if they're Jewish, they also are called a Bia Psula, and therefore it puzzles the woman, and she can't marry a Kohen anymore. That's Tanakama. Rav Yossi Omer, a different cloud. Kol Zara Puzzle, Posel. Kol Shein Zara Puzzle, Ain't a Puzzle. Only if the child born of such a union would be a puzzle child. Then it puzzles the mother. A man had a beer with a woman, and if they'd have a child, the child will be puzzled. So then the mother becomes puzzled. But if the child wouldn't be puzzled, then the mother's not puzzled, even though there was a beer psula. Well, there's more to explain more. And there's a third
What
shita.
about the 9 years? Why are we worried about the 9 years?
Because I'm sorry, I left that out. That it's only called a bia on a 9-year-old boy. A boy that's less than 9-year-old is not physically mature. That the bia is called a bia, even though he managed to penetrate. That's not called a bia. So in order to puzzle, the woman has to be 9 years old. The girl also has to have been 3 years old. A bia of a boy less than 9 years old is not called a bia, and the bia on a girl less than 3 years old is not called a bia. So here, these men that were psulim, they had a bia with a woman, they puzzled her. Yoshi says, Dafka, if it's kind of a bia, that the child born of such a union will become puzzled. It doesn't make a difference if the child is born or not. There was no child born. But if there'd be a child born, it'd be puzzled. That's the kind of a bia that puzzles the woman. And if not, then even though there was a bia psula, it doesn't puzzle the woman. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, a third opinion, Kol Sha'atanose Bito, Atanose Almanoso, Anybody that you're allowed to marry his daughter means the daughter will be kosher. So then you're allowed to marry his widow, which is another way of saying that the bia only puzzles if the daughter will be puzzled. Rav Yossi, was a Yossi before? Forgot the name. Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi said that if the child born will be puzzled, child. He didn't say daughter. He said child, which would include also a boy. And Rav Shimon Gamliel is more specific. He says only if the daughter will be puzzled. Then the widow is puzzled. Means that the widow means the woman who had the bia psula. So he expresses himself by saying, if you're allowed to marry his daughter, you're allowed to marry his almana. It means even though there might have been a bia psula, he wasn't allowed to. But if the daughter would not become puzzled, so the mother that he had the bia with also was not puzzled. If you're not allowed to marry the daughter, then I agree that you wouldn't be allowed to marry the almana. She became pasul. So that's the end of the brayso. We have three opinions. Tanakama says if it's a via psula, it pasels the mother. Rabbi Yossi says only if the child born will be pasul. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says only if the daughter would be pasul. And now the Gemara explains what they're talking about. Ma'ika ben Tanakama ubein Rabbi Yossi. What is the machlokes between Tanakama who says any via psula, and Rabbi Yossi says only if the child will be pasul? Rabbi Yochanan Mitzri Sheni Ika benayu. Mitzri Sheni. What's Mitzri Sheni? Second generation Mitzri. Torah says that the Mitzri can become a ger, but the first generation, the second generation, he can't marry Jewish. He can marry a Gioris, Mamzeris, but he wouldn't be able to marry Bas Yisrael, Kal Hashem. But the third generation may. So this Mitzri Sheni, second generation Mitzri, he had relations with a Jewish woman. So it was also, he wanted to be a psula. Tanakama says pasul. But the child that would be born wouldn't be pasul because he'd be a Mitzri Shlishi. He'd be a third generation Mitzri. He's allowed to marry into Am Yisrael. That would be a machlokas. According to Tanakama, she's pasul. According to Rabbi Yossi, the woman is not pasul because the child that will be born from her wouldn't be pasul. Both of them learn it from the Kohen Gadol. Means where do you know that the woman becomes pasul? It says. It says that a Kohen should not marry an almana and should not cause to, what's the word, to be machalel, to profane, to make his children, his seed pasul. So it says that when a Kohen Gadol has relations with an almana, the child born is going to be pasul. It's going to be a chalal. So is the dagish over there because the child is pasul only? Tanakama Savaki Kohen Gadol. You learn now from any time, any psul, it's going to be the woman becomes pasul similar to when a Kohen Gadol has relations with an almana. The Tanakama Savaki Kohen Gadol ba'almana. My Kohen Gadol ba'almana should be also ba'avera. Uposo ba. Of course, should be also ba'avera. Uposo. Tanakama sees it that it was because there was a via psula. Because the Kohen Gadol had relations with the almana, that's what makes it pasul. So anytime there's a via psula, it pasels the woman. Rabbi Yossi Sabra also ki Kohen Gadol ba'almana. But over there, it says more than just the woman become. That was also to have relations. It says that the child becomes pasul. Ma Kohen Gadol ba'almana shezaro pasul uposel. The child that will be born will be pasul. Be a chalel zaro. That's when it pasels the woman. Of course, zaro pasul posel. Only in such a case where the child born will be pasul, that will pasels the woman. But mitzvah sheni, shein zaro pasul. But mitzvah sheni, the second generation, the child is not going to be pasul. Why? Because he's going to be dar shlishi. That the third generation mitzvah is mutter to marry. So that's the machlokas between Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi. That according to Tanakama, any be psula apostles, according to Rabbi Yossi, a mitzvah sheni wouldn't pasul her, even though they weren't allowed to have such a union. But since the child born wouldn't be pasul, so it doesn't pasul the woman either. She's allowed to marry a Kohen. And now there's a third opinion. Rav Shem ben Gamliel. Rav Shem ben Gamliel Omer. Kol shatanose bito atanose almanoso. V'chol shatanose bito iatanose almanoso. He said it depends if the daughter will be kosher or not. And now that was a quote. And now goes the question: Ma Yika ben Rabbi Yossi Rav Shem ben Gamliel. What's the case where Rabbi Yossi would hold pasul and Rav Shem ben Gamliel would not hold pasul? You have to find the case that the boy would be pasul and the girl would not be pasul. What's the case? That a ger amoni ma'avi, which is really what the Tanakhama spoke about. That was the first case he said. So the Tanakhama said the ger amoni ma'avi is not allowed to have relations with a Jewish girl, and if they did, so she becomes pasul. But Rabbi Yossi would also hold pasul because a child born would also be pasul, because the boy that will be born from an Ammoni would be an Ammoni. So according to Rabbi Yossi, the woman also be pasul. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says only if the daughter would be pasul, and the daughter that would be born from a ger Ammoni would be Ammonis, and ger Ammoni v'lo Ammonis, that their child would be kosher. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that the mother, the wife, only becomes not the nevelas only becomes pasul if the daughter would be pasul. But here the daughter wouldn't be pasul, so she's not pasul. But again, over there says that the child becomes pasul, and there's a drash to say that the woman becomes pasul. Of course, Shazara pasul, posel. By Kohen Gadol it says that the child becomes pasul, and that's the reason why the Ammoni becomes pasul. So to anybody with the child becomes pasul, and even a ger Ammoni Moavi, the child becomes pasul. So the woman is pasul. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel it says also Kikoin Gadol, but over there, Ma Koin Gadol B'Amana Shekol Zaro Apostle. That's the Shekol Zaro Apostle. That any kind of a child will be apostle, a boy or a girl, because if whoever's born from the mother of Kohen Gadol, the kid's going to be a chalal, boy a chalal, girl a chalala. I've called Shekol Zaro Apostle. I feel in the kavos. That's even that the girls also will be apostle. But Lafuki Gema Amoni Ma'avi, that if they have a girl, the girl wouldn't be apostle. Then the kavos have ukshero slavokol. How do you know? Damamar Amoni v'lo Amonis Ma'avi v'lo Mo'avis. So that's the end of that sugya, almost. And what do we have? That there's such a thing that when there's a Bia Psula, so apostle is the woman to marry a Kohen. But there are three opinions. According to Tanakama, any Bia Psula, whatever's also to marry, so the woman becomes apostle for such a Bia, she can't marry a Kohen anymore. But Yossi holds only if it would be that the child also was apostle, and that excludes a Mitzri Sheni, because the child wouldn't be apostle. So that doesn't apostle the wife, according to the woman, according to Rabbi Yossi. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel would agree to that also, that the Mitzri Sheni wouldn't be possible, but he's making even more, that even Moni and Ma'avi also is not going to possible the woman, because the daughter born would be kosher, even though the son born would be possible, but the daughter born would be kosher, so therefore the woman also didn't become possible. Amrav Chizda, Kol Modim, Balmanas Isa, Shepsuda Lakuna. Everybody agrees. Means we have three opinions, but everybody agrees. Even the biggest lenient, the most lenient, holds that the widow of an Isa, the Isa literally means a doe, and we had that at the beginning of the parak. It spoke about Kol Isa Labavel, it's Israel, it's Isa Labavel, and that means an admixture. And it's considered like mixed, like different ingredients, like we say today, a cholent. Everything's a cholent. So the Almana Isa means that there's a Almana of somebody that the lineage is not clear who he is. So Rashi says, or Rashi says someplace else, that there's a suffix cholon. There was a suffix. We don't know. There's a family that there was a suffix cholon. Make it extreme. That there's a family that's mixed in at a suffix cholon. We don't know who the cholon. We don't know for sure. This is the and he's a widow. She's a widow of such a family, that she married somebody that in the family is mixed in. We know someplace in the family there's a suffix cholon. We don't know who it is, and even if we know who it is, it'll only be a suffix cholon. I'll throw it in to make a spek speaker. And she had relations with him. She married him. And now the question is she mutter to a Kohen? So everybody agrees that she's possible to the Kohuna. And the Gemara now analyzes the statement of Rav Chisda. Man Mekel Panitana, who's the biggest lenient one? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. He's the one who says that only if the daughter is possible, is she possible. The Kama called Sha'ata no say Bito Ata no se Almanasa. That would have been enough for him to say. He wanted to be lenient. He could have said, if you're allowed to marry his daughter, you're allowed to marry her. Why? What is he coming? He said an extra sentence over here that if you're not allowed to marry his daughter, you're not allowed to marry his almana. So you don't see it beferish, because maybe this someone is fakest over here because you don't know who it is, and even if it is, it's a suffix, it's a sex fake. I think Mark's going to say in 2 lines. So you might think that she would be mutter, that the daughter would be mutter, the almana would be mutter. But since he said an extra sentence that if you're not allowed to marry the daughter, you're not allowed to marry the almana, I think that that's what's being said. That that's the chiddush, you're not allowed to marry the daughter either. So Kamash Malan from the extra sentence, he's coming to say that almana sisa is also possible. And now is a woman who was married to somebody from a family who there's a suffix hollow mixed into.
It's Isa because mixed.
It's mixed, and you don't know who it is, but it's also a suffix. So you could call the suffix alone is called mixed, but some shatim say that it's mixed in a suffix hollow. So it's a sphex faker, and there could be a good chance to say that it's mutter to marry, but the words of Rav Chisda were mashma is coming to say a chumrah that is going to be the words of Rav Shimon Gamliel. Rav Chisda is like Rav Shimon Gamliel, that is words of mashma that this also will be also. And the Gemara says, if so, it's against the Mishnah. There's a Mishnah that says that it's a sphex faker and it's mutter to marry. The Kohen could marry this almana sisa. That nan hey Rabbi Yeshua Babuda ben Meser almana sisa shekshera lakuna.
What's Isa mean?
Right? Isa means a doe. What we call a chong. My timer, I have a sphex faker lakuna. Since it's a sphex faker, like I tried to explain, I'm not sure it's the right shot, that there's a sphex faker because you don't know who it is, and even if you know who it is, it's a suffix, so it's a double suffix. and therefore there's a mission that says that a Kohen is allowed to marry her, the daughter or the wife. But here there was an extra word about the L'Shem Gamliel to say that you can't marry the daughter. But I'm not sure why is it so sure you can't marry the daughter. Is that all? Is that all? Is that also a given, or that the Almana Sisa? What I'm confused about is those who say that Almana Sisa is mutter, the daughter of the Isa is for sure Asa. Is that what's being said? That the daughter of the Isa is Asa, and the question is on the Almana. Maybe that if that would be shot, then the words would be a little bit better. That his cloud was that if you're not allowed to marry the daughter, you're not allowed to marry the wife. And you're not allowed to marry the daughter, so you're not allowed to marry the wife. Some hold that you are allowed to marry the wife. But I'll try to get my chavrusa to tell me the truth. And then
Why
tomorrow.
would it be that
Why would it be?
Also?
I don't know, but I don't see anything in the words now. He said a cloud. If you can't marry the daughter, you can't marry the almana. What's the deal? What do you see? Could you marry the daughter?
Just a reboot.
Just to be with mamish. It got nothing to do with the almana and the daughter. Just if you would have said you can't marry the daughter,
Actually, has something near the Hoyle. You have to make it a Shem of Polo Hoyle. What's not that's called Zahab Sun and Afuna Hoyle.
it sounds like that's a given. That you can't. Everyone knows you can't marry the daughter. Even the one in the Mishnah. The Mishnah, maybe even I think that's mashma a little
That's
bit.
why
But even
Rashi didn't want to make this shot that it's a. You said a good shot to make it a sveik so you said that it was nitman a soft color. Rashi doesn't do that. So this and it could be the reason is because he wants to get to the daughter should be awesome.
and the wife is going to be also us. Okay, at this point, maybe come back to if we figure it out, and if Chavrusa figures it out, and what it is saying is that there are those that hold that the almana is mutter. Here saying that the almana is asa. I'm trying to figure out if the daughter surely is asa according to everybody or not. Okay, Yashikov, Yashikov.
So everyone should have 1 o'clock Yom Kippur Cotton in the Ramban.
And 3 o'clock at the